is the mansion's most famous ghost. Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for clear skies tonight with a low around 45, Thursday sunny with a high near 72, and Friday sunny with a high around 81. Don't just mow your lawn, love it. Natural Lawn's organic-based treatments have been creating greener, safer lawns for over 30 years. With expert soil testing and no contracts, you get healthier grass and fewer chemicals. Plus, cleanup is part of every visit. Go barefoot this summer. Start at naturallawn.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story. This is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining us on this Wednesday evening. Very exciting evening tonight. Lots to talk about here. Before we get too far down the road here with our guest tonight, I want to say hello to Adam in Eden Prairie. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well, sir. Cannot wait to actually get into tonight's interview with our guest, because the what we're going to be talking about, I suggest spending the money on Prime to go get it. Oh my God, so much fun. Tonight's show is going to be a blast.
Yeah, it will be. It will be very good. I also want to just say I just got back from Ghost Stories and Beyond at Billy's. What a night. Oh my gosh. We'll talk more about this on Friday, because I think that on Casual Friday, because this is not quite the same vibe as what this program is going to be tonight. But my goodness, we had more than a packed house tonight. We had Andra Sakala, who is the line producer for the paranormal TV series from Haunt TV, Haunted Discoveries. And we just had a great conversation. And a lot of people got a real insight into the production of a haunted paranormal TV show. Very interesting. We're going somewhere different, though, tonight. We have with us Director Dean Alioto. And he just had a film come out called The Alien Perspective. And this is a very interesting film. I'm really excited to kind of get into it. I watched it last night, and which is episode 1, by the way. But it's fantastic, and we're going to talk a lot about it here. And Dean, welcome to GhostBox Radio. It's great to have you with me tonight.
Great to be here, Greg. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh my goodness, thank you. And I just want to make sure, because I got this through Amazon Prime last night, and I'm watching it, and it says episode 1. The other episodes haven't come out yet, or am I just that silly that I totally missed everything else about what you had out?
First of all, I need to know, and this will affect the answer, what type of weed were you smoking last night? Because there's certain weeds that give the effect that there's 3 more episodes. There's only 1 episode.
Doesn't it say episode 1 at the beginning?
1 more episode. There is 2 episodes. It's a 2-parter.
You know what it is? It's Star Wars syndrome, I think, is what that is, where I just think that everything's 3 episodes. Everything's a trilogy. So, okay. All right.
Well, you're partially right. Correct. It was actually 4 episodes. at one point. And then one of the episodes was so deep in the rabbit hole with experiencers, abductees, that it threw the balance off. And so there was more than enough meat with 1 and 2. So that was pulled out. And then there was also a very big, meaty, like a 30-minute segment on John Mack, Harvard professor, who just an amazing story. So that got pulled out. So it got reduced to this really tight 2-part episode. And so we split it up because the vibe is different from each show. And the first one is hosted by Professor Michio Kaku.
Yep.
And the second one is by Dr. Diana Pasulka.
Okay. And I knew right away when I saw him at the beginning of the film, I thought, you're not playing around here. You got some really good names here, and one that I have to say that I was really happy to see. I mean, he was only in it, at least in this episode, very briefly, was Travis Walton, who he was on the show about a month and a half ago. Yeah,
Travis is in the Big Time, in the Experiencers.
Okay.
Documentary. That's the name of the one that's about the Experiencers. His story is featured in a Big Time, so there'll be more.
I can't wait. So can we start off by explaining for those who may have not seen this film what the Alien Perspective is about, please?
Sure. So just backing up real briefly, because I'm sure other people have heard it before. I made a film. It turned out that it was a first found footage film called The McPherson Tape, about a family that gets abducted by extraterrestrials. And then I did a remake for UPN TV called Alien Abduction Incident Lake County in 1998. And then for the anniversary, I was invited to go to these UFO conventions because I have a bit of a kind of a cult fan base in both horror found footage, sci-fi, but also in the UFO community, because for the longest time, it was believed that my first film, in fact, the second one as well, the remake, that they were both actual footage of a family being abducted. So I had to go on national TV to debunk it. It's a whole other story. And so I went for the 25th anniversary to the International UFO Congress Convention and spoke there. And I had never been to a UFO convention before. And so it was all new to me. This is in 2018. And I got to meet, before he passed, Stanton Friedman and all of these people that I've been kind of as not an armchair expert, an armchair prosumer over the years tracking. And then I met tons of people like Michael Masters, people who are professors in certain fields that were taking this seriously. And one of them that you'll see in part 1 was the Oxford professor, Dr. Nick Bostrom, who created the simulation reality hypothesis that we're all living in simulation. So meeting all these people, I thought, God, I've done documentaries for network TV. It just felt like there was a documentary to be had here that would be done as a science doc. And we could get into some really wild stuff with these guys who would normally never talk about this, because we were approaching it as a hypothesis. And so what you usually do as a filmmaker is you look at what everyone else is doing and then you try to do the opposite, bring something new, because there's tons of UFO, phenomenon documentaries out there, fantastic ones. But I thought one thing that I've not seen is I've not seen an attempt, even as a hypothetical, to look at the phenomenon from those visiting our planet's perspective.
Yeah. And
so that helped me bring in a whole bunch of talented folks, great minds, to gnaw on that. And we start out in NASA, and then, we end up with possible debris from a craft. So it covers everything. So that's kind of the whole conceit of the idea, is to look at it, even as an exercise from that, what can be gleaned from that. And some big surprises came from it.
That is one of the things I absolutely love about this, is a couple things. First off, what you're covering here, you could, like you said, you originally had 4 episodes. What I saw last night, as using your terminology, it was tight. It was edited very, very well. It didn't none of it outstayed its welcome, and you're going on multiple areas within this film. And I appreciate the fact that, you know, when I'm done watching this, I want more. I want to understand more. And, you know, knowing that there's more coming, that's great. But I love the fact that you are able to just, and I know that's what you do as a filmmaker, being able to know what to take out and what to keep you on track, because I find a lot of things these days, a lot of documentaries that are covering this doesn't always know that, you know, and I think that has to be a really tough thing for you at the same time of like, but this is really good, but this is no longer fitting the direction of the film.
Yeah, well, it's this was the most challenging project I've ever been involved in. In fact, originally it was going to be a feature, just a one-off. And I was going to take 9 months to make it and do 15 interviews. And the first 2 interviews I did was Nick Pope and Travis Taylor. And as you know, once you dip one toe in, it's kind of like the Blob. It pulls you in. And so I found myself 7 years, later finishing up these documentaries, shooting 66 interviews over 4 countries. And so it just became this epic thing. Then when it came to actually constructing and editing it, I had this original idea that I was going to try to get, someone to be an official host where we would follow them, like Robert Stack in the original, Unsolved Mysteries.
Sure.
And I had a conversation with Leslie Kane after I interviewed her, and was packing to leave all of her equipment and everything. And she kept, asking, are you going to do a host? You're not going to do that, right? And I said, well, I might do it because it could be an opportunity for maybe a celebrity. I know Dan Aykroyd is into this. Maybe, I don't know. And she says, okay, you're not going to, but if you don't do that, you're not going to do a narration. And I'm like, well, narration is used as a tool for documentaries a lot, but it doesn't have to be. And she goes, and you're not going to be in it, are you? And I said, well, I'm kind of a big part of this story because of my original, found footage UFO films, but yeah, I don't know. And so I started my first cut during COVID. And so I did exactly what what she thought I was going to do. I put in a little placeholder for host, and I edited the first 15 minutes of that. And I went, wow, that's kind of been done before. Let's try just a narration. And then I couldn't write that. It just didn't feel right. And then ultimately, I settled on this idea, and it took about 4 to 6 months of doing these pods where there'd be these sections where we would look into one aspect of what it could be. And that allowed me to drill it down really hard on certain areas of the phenomenon and possible explanations. So we could dive in, which is what happens when you're in the phenomenon, as you know. Is it Bigfoot? Is it, and you look at all these ideas, are they from the future? Are they from another planet, another dimension? So we dive into it, we spend time on that, real quality time. And then we move on to the next one and give ourselves into that. So it is a whole new structure that I've never, been a part of before. And so far the results seem to be really good with reviews.
And as a filmmaker, I would presume that doing something that's different for you and being able to tell the story differently has to be kind of freeing for you, right? I mean, it's a new construct for you and a different way of trying to tell the stories differently than you normally do it.
Much more than what I've done before, which I also do independent films. Mm-hmm. So I'm used to being very linear. And what happens is it works great for fictional films, but with documentaries being very linear, you start to nod off because it's the same thing and you're following and it's going on and on. And so with some of them, and so it actually started to affect the way that I'm writing my independent films now. I'm going, oh, I don't have to actually do that. I can force the format, and I can break things up and do it nonlinear, and but still have it so that the audience can track.
That's great. That is fantastic. Now, Maureen asked the question, because the film is called The Alien Perspective, and she asked the question, where can you view it or buy it?
So you can see it on Amazon or Apple TV. I kind of prefer Apple TV, but both are just as good. Apple TV, the quality, I think, of their player might be a little bit better. That's just the filmmaker in me. But it's still solid and fine to watch it on Amazon and that those are the two places to get it.
Now we're gonna head to break here in a couple minutes, but I want to ask you, for those who may not totally understand what you mean by when you have a history of like shooting like horror found footage. What does that mean?
Sure. So when I graduated from college, dropped out of my second film school, I had to make my first film by the age of 25 because all of my idols, Spielberg, Lucas, Scorsese, all of them had made their films, Coppola, all before or by the age of 25. And so
a competition of sorts with yourself, right?
Yeah, well, it was delusions of grandeur. It was kind of like, if I'm going to be a filmmaker, be serious. And I knew I wanted to be it from 17. I remember 16 or 17, I remember seeing E.T. and coming home and telling my mother, I'm a filmmaker. That's it. That's what I'm doing. Because it combined the broken family. My family was divorced. I was the jacked up middle child who dreamed of aliens. And it was like celebrating that instead of having to be this tragedy. And so anyway, I just, pursued that. And it kind of, brought me to kind of where I am. I didn't really answer that question.
No, the found footage.
No, the found footage. Well, what it does is it basically, so when they don't have DSLR cameras back when I was starting out, so you couldn't just grab a camera that you shoot stills and go and make a movie. So we had VHS and 8mm video, and so it was a necessity. And I only had $6,500, so I hired this guy to do the ship and aliens for $750, and then we spent the rest on the film. And the film, it got a limited release before the warehouse, literally within weeks, burned to the ground. I lost my main master and all my artwork.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I thought, well, that's a film god saying, yeah, nice try, kid, move on. And then like 5 years later, I get a call saying that, hey, your film was just shown at the International UFO Congress Convention, where a lieutenant colonel from the Air Force claimed it was authentic. Do you know anything about this? And so I found out that someone had edited off the credits. A couple screeners got out to some mom and pop video stores, and someone injected it into the UFO community. And so at first I thought, oh, that's hilarious. I can't believe that actually happened and people believe this. And then I had to go on national TV because it kept getting bigger and bigger, the story. And I went on this Fox show and I debunked my own film. So it was really something out of necessity. And what a found footage film is, for those who don't know, is it is footage that appears to have been shot by like a home video or a camera crew that was left behind unedited and is then recovered and presented as being this real kind of, home video, if you will.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's cool. I love that. I love all that. Maureen, who had asked where to get the film from, she said when you mentioned where to get it from, she's like, fantastic. A good thing to add to my weekend view. So that's, folks, you're going to enjoy this quite a bit. And Nancy is just saying, love listening to people with a certain knowledge. That is not something you run into every day. So, it's very cool to hear that. Dean, why don't we do this? I'd like to take a break here. When we come back, I want to talk about a little bit more about your start with aliens. What intrigues you about that, and kind of build from there. Folks, if you have any questions, put into the comments. We can ask questions. I hope you don't mind questions tonight, Dean.
I love questions. Fire away.
Absolutely. Would love to hear from you all. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations, exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's after hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information.
Are you one of thousands of individuals who know you have psychic abilities but don't know how to tap into your higher self? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who offers classes that can help you reach your goals. Refined Divine holds classes Monday and Thursday at her 2 locations and via Zoom. Classes consist of manifestation, learning psychic abilities, shadow work, and healing trauma. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
This is Psychic Medium Deb. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
It's that time of year again where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lilliput is the perfect place and is open for the season. Be the first to take on their newest escape room, The Bunker. It's intense, exciting, and totally unforgettable. Prefer spooky? Try the Haunted Mansion. When you're done escaping, hit the mini golf course, go-karts, and jump pads. Lilliput is perfect for parties and group events too. Visit lilliput.net for hours and start your spring adventures at Lilliput.
And if you're watching me tonight on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun on Facebook, as always, I ask, please consider sending stars our way. It's been really helping. We've been seeing a difference in the algorithm of who's seeing our show. And that's how Facebook is able to kind of place us. So it's not just, a few people, but more people. And we really appreciate those who have sent stars. I would ask that you please do so if you're able to. And if you're watching on other platforms, please support their platforms with stars as well. Another way to support GhostBox Radio is through our Patreon. Starts as low as $3 a month. And that is just patreon.com/GhostBox Radio. We are having an incredible conversation tonight with Director Dean Alioto. We're talking about his film, not 3 parts, but 2 parts. I mean, I don't know where we got that silliness. The Alien Perspective, which is really pretty fantastic. And I want to talk a little bit more about the found footage stuff, because are we seeing some of that in the film?
No, none of it is fake footage. In the film, either the footage is shots that are like B-roll, if you will.
Yeah.
Anything that you see on the screen there, that's footage that has been captured by others, or yeah.
And so that means that the debris, that part that's all authentic. I mean, that's incredible, folks. That is worth the film itself, let alone all of these. I mean, the film starts off with that, and right away it's just I was just so intrigued by it. Were you able? I mean, I'm not trying to give anything away, but I do want to ask: were you able to touch any of those yourself?
I did.
What? I mean, what did you feel any energy or anything from it?
It was interesting because I was traveling with that material. In fact, Doug Trumbull, who we interview, who did the effects for Blade Runner, Close Encounters, and 2001: Space Odyssey, he almost cried when he touched it.
Oh,
he just felt like this is, if this is what it is, because we're having very critical, severely critical tests being done, then this, could be a game changer.
I could see for Doug that's his, like, William Shatner going into space moment, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. That's a good analogy.
Gosh, that's just, and I'm sorry, you look at that stuff and you're just like, it doesn't look like anything produced on this planet. It's amazing. Folks, once again, the film is called The Alien Perspective. It is available on Apple TV. It's available on Amazon. I watched it from Amazon myself, and it's beautifully shot. It really keeps the story going. How far back does UFO interest go for you?
I always like to say it goes back as far as the divorce that my parents,
Oh, sure.
that we all went through. I was about 7 years old, and I ended up living with my father for a few years before I moved back with my brother and my mother. And so during that time, really lonely. And I remember, this is in Sacramento. I remember every night in our apartment looking out the window and seeing all the stars and just thinking that there was probably someone else going through the same thing that I was going through, maybe on another planet. And so that, and then also I don't know, I think inherently I was drawn to UFOs and Bigfoot and Bermuda Triangle, all the stuff that's fantastical, because for me, it was, as a kid, an escapist relief from my life. And so that just carried with it that fantastical element. And so it's funny, I've been at this being a filmmaker for so long now, and I look back and I realized recently that more than a third of my IP, my intellectual property that I create, whether it's been made to movies or written, is all sci-fi, specifically aliens. And so one of the documentaries, The Experiencers, Yvonne Smith, renowned hypnotherapist who has her own support groups and stuff. I asked her one day, because I said, I've never seen a UFO. And I'm not an experiencer that I'm aware of. And so I said, I keep asking myself, why am I doing this? Because literally the 7 years that I was ensconced in making these films, I got offered during COVID, I got offered to go and shoot this thriller. And I turned it down because I wanted to finish these, and it would have been great and everything. But I feel like in some ways, for lack of a better word, I feel like I'm being of service doing these. It's really strange, dude. I can't describe it. I've talked to James Fox about it and others, and you feel that way. You feel like you're attached to something bigger. And so that's kind of, how, it was embedded, early, and how I still carry it. However, Yvonne had an interesting take on it. She laughed when I told her this. I go, why am I doing this? It's like, this is like a year ago. So it's like 6 years I've been at this. And I said, I'm not an experiencer. And she laughed and said, Dean, they don't have to knock on your door to reach you, which was a little cryptic. And I thought, well, just better than coming and getting me at night, maybe.
It's so interesting that you say that, because I've had an experience that I just didn't really know what to make of it a few years back. And it was actually all at the house. And I don't know if you've ever talked with her. Her name is Kathleen Martin. She is. Yeah.
She's interviewed in my Experiencers documentary.
I was wondering if she would have been in that, because she was a guest on the show. And after the show, I told her in depth my experience, you're trying to kind of impress someone who's actually really, into all this, and, with Betty and Barney Hill and all that stuff. And she just looked at me. She goes, that's where you were abducted. I'm like, what do you mean? And she goes, no, you sounds like you were abducted. I said, I never left my house. And she goes, based on what you said, we've heard this before, and I believe that you were abducted. So there is something, to your point, it's kind of almost like an osmosis sort of thing that and I think, isn't that one of the things we have to kind of consider when it comes to aliens, UFO? You take the conventional and you throw it out the window, because there's nothing conventional about this at all.
No, my favorite term is after this, if I had to isolate it, condense it down to something, it would be high strangeness.
Yes.
It's weird ass stuff, and it doesn't give a damn if your conventional thought doesn't coincide with their reality. It's kind of humorous, I would think, for them. That's why, I always laugh at physicists who say, oh, well, that's not how physics work. And I go, you don't know anything about physics other than 2025 physics.
Yeah.
And we keep discovering new things. So to park it there, that's like, I always say to other filmmakers, aspiring filmmakers, I go, look, the most important thing for you to do is every year dump out your toolbox and start over.
Yeah.
And so you can't be so rigid in your beliefs. So when I was making these, I would go through Jacques Vallée. I remember talking to him years ago, and about dimensions, coming from another dimension. And then I parked it there for a long time. And then I started thinking about the astral plane.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're traveling on the astral plane, because some people say that they see their deceased loved ones there. And then, Professor Mike Masters is, his extraterrestrial theory that we covered, also seems to really resonate in so many logical ways. So you kind of have to be open to everything, I think, in order to really take in the breadth of the phenomenon.
And I think that goes beyond the idea too of like, it's not going to be a ship that lands in your front yard. There's so many other ways for to experience alien activity. A week or so back, I had on author Steve Bown from the UK, and he wrote this book about verified near-death experiences. What I thought was really interesting about that is that there had been a number of people in their near-death experiences where they were verified dead. They didn't see their loved ones; they saw aliens. And I just think that, I think why I say that, I think it really bolsters your point that it's everywhere. It doesn't have, it's not going to be where you expect it to be. And we're all kind of, subjected to think, in certain lines and not color outside the lines. But science should be really more about being so open to everything and not that conventions of what physics can and cannot do.
Science should be broken up into two disciplines. One is what we have empirically been able to recreate.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the science of the unknown.
Yes.
And both those things need to live and occupy kind of the same space simultaneously. I think that's when, the best work comes, when people go, well, why not? Why couldn't it be that?
Mm-hmm. I think too, I was thinking about this the other day, and I was listening to a podcast and talking about people who still don't believe that there's any other living anything in the universe apart, and then no other planets that could be like Earth in the universe. And I always think that is about the same as people saying back in the day that the sun revolved around the Earth. It seems such an archaic idea. It doesn't mean that we know who's out there, but it's just that being arrogant and blind to think that we are it in this entire vastness, that we look out and we're only seeing just a tiny glimpse of everything, and we don't think that there's anything else in the universe that could be like us, or living, or whatever.
Yeah, when I was younger, it used to piss me off when people would go, "Oh, please," and they would poo-poo all this stuff.
Yeah,
it would be like, that's so narcissistic to think that way. And then I learned to have empathy, because for them, they can only go so far on the journey of life, and that's kind of sad. So I just have empathy.
Yeah, I don't really know what empathy is. I'm hoping you'll cover that in the third film. But no, it's a really good point, actually, because I think that falls in a lot of areas. The idea of all this. I got a question that came through. I like this question a lot, actually.
Does it have to do with this cup that I'm drinking from?
Yes. As it happens, it does. No, it doesn't.
This was given to me by my buddy, Broden Minogue out of Australia, who is a UFO fan, and he's done shows. He's had his own podcast. He's funny as crap, and I don't know if I can swear here.
We prefer not to be sworn. Yeah,
we'll just say crap. And so he sent it to me, and I promised him that I would feature it. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're not watching it, there is a cup that I'm drinking called, it says, I love John Oates on one side.
Great. I love
that. The other is a picture of him looking, I don't know, was that blue steel? I'm not sure. But that one's for you, Broden.
He's living the 80s dream on your mug. That's for sure. He really does it very well. Maureen asked the question, do you fear that making this film makes you a target to be visited?
Oh, crap.
You haven't thought about that, have you? Now you might want to start thinking. No, I'm just kidding.
I gotta hire security now.
Yeah, you gotta maybe not have such the lavish. You're out in LA, right? So you're already out there. So
I'm acting a little too cocky. Maybe I should dial it back. No, I think if they were going to get to me, they already would have. And I kind of feel like they have in a way. I mean, in part 2, it'll continue this. And then in the other documentaries, there's a kind of a central theme that's going through, which is that we need to really take care of ourselves. And there's certain messaging that has come through that underscores that and has for decades. And so, I feel like there's something that's, and it hasn't fully been expressed, but it's close. It will be done shortly. But I feel like something has been expressed through working in this field. And so, it could be through the people that I'm talking to or through dreams. I don't know. But I feel like, to a degree that's already happened. I just haven't had to deal with the ontological shock that real, experiencers have had to.
Do you ever, I mean, as a filmmaker, I mean, you're obviously probably looking for these, these type of subjects that is different than what other people are making. So, my original question was going to be along the lines of doing, films about UFO and aliens. Do you feel like you'll be, continue to be taken as seriously? But I mean, in the world that we live in, we want to do stuff that's going to stand out and make people ask questions, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I have a pen name for all my non-UFO stuff, and that's Sir Mix a lot. And no, it is funny because I post on Facebook, and I went to a high school reunion, and more than one person said, "Oh, you're doing that UFO thing," and I thought, wow, I've done Westerns, I've done documentaries. Outside of this, I have one that's about famed political cartoonist Pat Oliphant, but it doesn't matter. Once you're associated with UFOs, you kind of get branded with that, and I'm fine. I'm not, insecure about that. It's funny because more people than not, will comment and go, "Wow, that's amazing. I had my own experience."
Yep.
So I don't worry about that really, because. Also, what I'm doing is, these, I let people know these are science docs. These aren't UFO phenomenon docs per se. This is looking at it in a way that is trying to understand it. I'm not coming out and saying, this is happening, the reptilians are coming, this or that. I'm presenting the evidence as we know so far and taking ideas that we've put in other areas and applying them to this.
And I mean, let's make no mistake. The reptilians are coming. I mean, I don't want to downplay that part of it.
No, we should not downplay that. They're
I get it. That's not part of this story. That's just, episode 4.
It's a separate podcast.
Dean, why don't we go ahead and take another break, and then we'll get into our last segment. I'm loving this conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time. Folks, once again, the film is called The Alien Perspective. You can get it on Apple TV, Amazon. We have a lot more questions. Don't forget, if you have something to say to Dean, put it in the comments. Love to hear what you have to say. Folks, don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations, exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh, every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef. So check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. It's that time of year again where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lilliput is the perfect place and is open for the season. Be the first to take on their newest escape room, The Bunker. It's intense, exciting, and totally unforgettable. Prefer spooky? Try the Haunted Mansion. When you're done escaping, hit the mini golf course, go-karts, and jump pads. Lilliput is perfect for parties and group events too. Visit lilliput.net for hours and start your spring adventures at Lilliput.
And welcome back to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining us. We're having a fantastic conversation tonight with Director Dean Alioto, and we're talking about his new film that just came out. I think it just came out in like March, didn't it, Dean? The Alien Perspective?
It came out in, around that time, January, maybe. I can't remember
Somewhere
now.
around there.
Yeah.
2025 for sure, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I'm normally the person and his new film that just came out. When did it come out again? 2015. Okay. That's kind of how I operate. Do you watch? I mean, obviously, you must see some of the other stuff that is out there. One that I always find very fascinating is from 1974, the documentary UFOs, Past, Present, and Future. Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah.
With Rod Serling and stuff, and which was always purported to was meant to be meant to actually have real alien footage in it at an Air Force base, if I'm not mistaken, like 600 feet of footage or something like that.
Yeah, last minute it was yanked. It was kind of a big tease, but that was supposedly going to get dropped through the military.
Yeah, and because they actually allowed them to film inside the Pentagon. I mean, it was insane. It's just, I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think that was real, or do you think that was all never really, we're never going to really see any of that footage? Like that was all made up?
Boy, that's a whole discussion. The government definitely 100%. I can say I believe this as much as I believe that, we're being visited without seeing a UFO. The government has insane footage, amazing footage.
Yeah.
You don't have aircraft that's interacting with these and say, well, we're only going to be capturing this stuff on, black and white FLIR footage. So it looks like almost a game of Pong, so they're sitting on this and they don't want to release it for whatever reason. I think that the most feeble excuse is that they feel like someone could look at the footage and maybe reverse engineer it. So this is a proprietary, property. I think that's
yeah.
And so I'm not buying it. But with regards to that specifically, that footage, I don't know. It wasn't. It hasn't come out, hasn't been seen. So it's a mystery. I mean, at some point, I hope that more footage does get out. I think that we have so many crafts, in the air, whether it's drones or people's own planes and stuff, that I think it's just going to end up being, captured. But then that brings up the question, right? You go, wow, here is insane clear footage that is validated, that has its, chain of title, its provenance. And we can now look at this thing and go, there it is. And we can almost maybe see rivets. Then what does that get us?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we go, okay, well, we already believe this is happening, that these crafts are out there. So what does it do to take a picture of the car as it drives by the road? It's what's inside.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mostly curious about.
Did you have any thoughts or opinions on all the drones between the end of 24 and the early 25?
Yeah, it's weird. I can say that. I had my own experience with that in November. We were looking out on our deck, and we're in Los Angeles here, and we saw 7 drones. And you can actually see this footage. I posted it on TikTok. It's under my name, or it's under Captured Pictures, which is the name of my company, official. But it was 7 drones, and they were flying around. And I use drones all the time when I'm filming, but I only use 1 drone at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have 2 or 4 or 7. So I videotaped it, then kind of sat on it. And then, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, here comes the big, scuttlebutt of drones in Jersey. And so I went back and I looked at the footage and I went, all right, what's going on here? So none of them that I was able to see, change shape, but some of them got really bright. So it's kind of hard to say. I mean, I didn't have the best camera, but you can see it. You can see these things going, and it's red, blue, and green, and then all of a sudden it flares up, becomes this ball of light, and then goes away. But anyway, I don't know. It's weird, and it's more weird the response we got from the government, which was complete BS.
And also more weird that it's pretty much gone now.
Yeah, it is strange. It had its moment and went. I haven't been following up on it since then and to see if it's still happening, but people it's old news, because that's what happens too.
That's true too. It's like, oh well, but I mean, it's like I personally haven't heard anything, and I kind of keep my ear out about that sort of thing. And then, but to your point, it might be that it's still happening, but people are just bored to even talk about it anymore. We're fickle that way, aren't we?
Oh yeah, it's it's not just Americans, but humanity as a whole operate as if we're going sometimes through an amusement park. And, there's the freak show. There's a woman with the beard. There's the, 7 foot tall, 8 foot tall person. And we stop for a little bit and it has its moment. And then we move on to the next thing. We're that way with everything, with politics. It's like, oh, well, let's try this. Let's try that. So it's, we're a buffet civilization.
We are. We really are. Maureen says that I saw several in upstate New York at night, really rattled my parents. And then she follows up by saying nothing since. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've been listening and it's not really, I'm just going to be honest, not a podcast I listen to often. Actually, I've never listened to it before, but it was recommended to me by Chad, the owner of AM 950. It was listening to Joe Rogan, and I've never listened to one episode before, but he had Hal Puthoff on. I don't know if that name is familiar to you. He's and it's 2 hours, over 2 hours of this incredible conversation about remote viewing. And then he gets into UAPs and aliens and some of the stuff that he had talked about. And it's just, it really is an eye opener of like when you had, and the reason I'm bringing it up, because you had said earlier, like, is, what the government footage has probably crazy. And he alludes to just that in this podcast. I mean, do you feel that we're getting to a point that we're going to have more disclosure than we ever thought we would have possible for us?
Well, I think we're at kind of a plateau in the sense that the next thing, logically, that would be the next level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I make this joke all the time, would be an alien tailpipe, that they would drop that on the congressional hearing desk. Shy of that, we're just looking at more pictures and footage, right? Yeah. There's testimony, but we're not seeing any of it, whether it's, aliens, live, dead, whatever. And so I don't know what that disclosure is going to be. I mean, we got a major disclosure in December, 2017, where the government said, yes, this is it. And we have, we've come so far. And I sometimes I say to people, hey, enjoy the meal that you've just been served, because there was, slim rationings beforehand. But next level, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to be at Contact in the Desert, and I'm showing part 2. That'll be the world premiere, and that'll be the last weekend of May this month. And it's a great venue. And so I'm on a panel with a bunch of great folks, and we're going to be talking about disclosure and what we think, that would be and what that would look like. And I cover that in part 2 as well. What I think that would be and what could happen, but what most likely won't happen.
Right. When are we going to see part 2?
It is, we're waiting to get our official date, but it looks like it's going to be the first or second week of June.
Oh, wow.
But once I have that date, I'll be dropping the trailer. And so you'll see it out there.
I love that. And then do you have any thoughts of when we might see the Experiencer film?
Well, each of my films have animation being done.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And it's not 3D AI animation. It is hand-drawn 2D animation, old school.
Yeah.
And Arvid Steen did the first one, and we have other great artists who are coming in. Arvid did the Academy Award-winning film Searching for Sugarman. Mm-hmm. And so that animation is being done as we speak. And so that'll probably come out either end of summer or end of the year.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of, which I loved, and I hope you find this as a compliment, when Cosmos came back and Seth MacFarlane's people did some animation, very stylized. I just thought that was really good, and that's kind of where it took me when I saw some of that. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
The thing is, like, we cover the Tic Tac story, and people go, "Oh, I've heard the Tic Tac story," and it's like, yeah, but you haven't seen it.
Right.
And so for the first time, I'm interviewing the patient 0, which was Kevin Day,
mm-hmm.
what it was like for him. And then I interview Sean Cahill, who, with his naked eyes, the night before, saw these crafts in the sky. And then we see the actual interaction between Dave Fravor and this craft. And we're able to get the camera, because it's animation, in places that you wouldn't normally see. So we're in the cockpit with Dave Fravor, but because it's alien perspective, we're also looking at him from the Tic Tac's perspective and what that was like. And so that has been, I've gotten tons of reaction, positive reaction. It's one of the highlights in the episode, or in the movie, for that, because people for the first time can actually conceptualize it and go, oh, now I see it.
Yes. Yes. I love that. That is fantastic. I mean, you're doing something that I've not seen anyone else do before. You have to feel pretty good about that. I mean, because that has to be so hard in this field to kind of do something that's just sticking out, that is like, hi, I'm different. And that's so hard, I feel like.
Yeah, well, I'm the first audience, right? Anytime a filmmaker makes a movie, they're making it for themselves. And for me, I'm a little dyslexic. I'm a super visual person. And so to read something or look at the data doesn't always solidify it for me. And so if I can recreate it and see it, then, like we do the Rendlesham Forest event. Mm-hmm. And so rather than try to get some actor who kind of looks like Jim, Peniston did when he was 24, that might not work out so well, but I can draw him to exactly what he looked like. We can have that done. And so we're able to be in the forest with Jim as he's talking about it, through the animation.
You brought up Stanton Friedman at the beginning, and it just makes me wish that as I knew him a little bit, and would have been great to hear his ideas on the alien perspective. What an incredible person.
Oh, he was on my list to interview, and unfortunately he passed away, but he did it in the best way. He was traveling, it was at an airport, terminal. I mean, there's worse ways to go, but he was doing what he loves, which is, getting out there and talking about the phenomenon. And, but no, he was definitely on my list of interviews to get.
That, yeah, I mean, totally amazing person, and it's so cool that you obviously have a great reputation, that you're getting all these amazing people, and you're talking to all the right people. I love it. I absolutely love the film, and I'm so excited that the second part of it is coming out sooner than later. I'm really excited for that.
Oh, right on. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that.
And because we're running out of time here, we have about a minute and a half left. I hope you consider coming back whenever you get the Experiencer film out there. I'd love to talk about that. I don't want to take up a ton of your time, but I just, that is going to be really interesting. And there's a lot of different ways that people can experience aliens. So I can't wait to see where you take that.
Well, if you get a chance to come out to Contact in the Desert, I'm actually going to show a sneak peek trailer of the Experiencers as well.
And where is that going to be?
That is in Indian Wells. Yeah, I think it's yeah. What is it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Indian Wells, which is near Coachella. So it's out almost near Palm Springs. They do something that runs from Thursday until the end of Monday, and they're going to have everyone. They're all the big heavy hitters are going to be there. Yeah. And so I'm showing part 1, and then right after I'm showing part 2.
And it has to feel pretty good that you're a heavy hitter yourself. You're right up there with them.
Well, I appreciate that, but it's we're always kind of trying to get answers. All of us are just kind of bumping into each other and asking and comparing notes and everything. And so I'm honored to be a part of that. And I'm really happy that I'm able to contribute anything to the phenomenon.
Well, folks, if you haven't done so, go to Apple TV or on Amazon. The film is called The Alien Perspective. You really should check this out. If you want any sort, if you are interested in the subject, you're going to love this. Dean, thank you so very much for spending so much time with us tonight. And what a great conversation, Dean. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll be back tomorrow with a replay, but I'll be back Friday with Casual Friday. Everyone, have a fantastic night.
Come on, you know it's true.